When life seems to be falling apart, it can unexpectedly come together into something far greater. One evening in a half-empty bar, a couple of random lottery tickets, and a man who lost love suddenly finds himself on the threshold of changes that will alter everything. Where emptiness was expected, new faces, new feelings, and a new chance at happiness appear. A house that once seemed abandoned forever is filled again with the laughter of children and the aroma of home-cooked meals. But when fate starts smiling too broadly, can that smile be trusted? What matters more, money, love, or the chance to start over without regrets? Sometimes, what we lose paves the way to things we never even dared to dream of gaining. Greetings, my dear viewer. Please, tell me which city and country you're watching this video from. Maybe you're watching me from a small town or a gigantic metropolis. Write about it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends. It will make me very happy. Let's get started. I grew up in a small, peaceful town where life moved slowly and everyone seemed to know everyone else. My parents ran a modest hardware store that often served as the heart of the neighborhood. My father instilled in me the value of hard, honest work, while my mother showed me the importance of kindness, especially when life grew difficult. Despite their occasional disagreements, they were always united, a partnership I admired and hoped to one day emulate. During high school, I was the quiet type, content to lose myself in the pages of a book rather than join the noisy lunchroom crowds. My first real romance was with Eliza, whose laughter filled every space she entered, and who would get lost for hours in her painting. We were inseparable throughout senior year, dreaming aloud of a shared future that ultimately slipped away. Eliza left for an art school out of town, and I remained, feeling obligated to help my family. College passed in a haze of studying and working odd jobs. That's when I met Leah, a journalism student with boundless drive and a wit that could catch anyone off guard. Leah had an energy that was impossible to ignore. She made you feel like anything could happen. We fell for each other fast, and soon after graduating, we got married. The early days together felt enchanted. Long conversations deep into the night, unplanned adventures that made every day feel special. But cracks slowly appeared. My work as a field technician kept me on the road and left me drained, while Leah's career was booming, demanding more and more of her focus. What had once been love turned into a routine of letdowns and irritation. By the time Leah brought up ending things, we drifted so far apart that I barely recognized us anymore. We'd become two people holding on to memories rather than each other. Watching her, my wife for 6 years, walk out that night, I felt detached from my own emotions, as though witnessing a stranger's story. The day began with Leah's blunt request for a conversation. She'd told me earlier to be home by 6, hinting we needed to talk. The absence of dinner was my first warning something was wrong. As we sat down, she was firm and matter-of-fact. She said she wanted out. "Sit down. We have to talk," she started, not wasting a moment. "When we married, I believed we'd figure things out. But these last few years made it clear, I can't do this anymore. You're never around, and when you are, it's like you've already checked out." I tried to explain. "I'm working these hours for us. I know your job's tough too, but it's not easy. If you helped out more, maybe I could ask for assignments closer to home," I said, but she stopped me. "It's more than that. The backyard you insisted on is a disaster. Maybe we could pay someone to fix it, then we'd have more time together," I suggested. "With what money?" she retorted. Her frustration was impossible to miss. "Things aren't getting better, Oscar. I can't keep waiting. I want more for myself, and that doesn't include you anymore. I'm done." I stared back at her, trying to process what she was saying. "So you want a divorce?" My words sounded calm, even if I didn't feel it. "Yes," she said firmly. "In 6 months, we'll both be on our own." "Who's going to cover the costs?" I asked. "I will," she replied instantly. "That's fair," I conceded. Go ahead." She collected her coat and paused at the doorway, perhaps searching for something else to add, but left in silence. Alone, I sat reflecting on what I was about to lose. Leah could be difficult, but at least she'd been there, waiting for me. Was I still in love with her? I truly didn't know anymore. Neither of us had used the word love during our entire exchange, and that realization hurt. Later, I found myself at Martin's bar, a place I hadn't visited in a long time. Leah's decision stung, but deep down I believed I'd move on. Instead of my usual cheap beer, I splurged on a $5 scratch ticket, grabbing a few lottery and Powerball tickets too, just for the heck of it. "Scratch-offs won't make you rich," Martin teased. "Play for the big money." "Let the computer pick my numbers. It's probably got better luck than I do," I laughed. I grabbed a few peanuts and asked the waitress to bring my drink to a booth, following the house rules. After a while, Ethan and Amelia Rivers joined me. We made small talk. I ordered another round, and soon enough, hunger set in. I left for a steakhouse, ordered the smallest cut and another drink. No dessert, just one last drink. I knew I was pushing my limit and would need to drive home carefully. Home, a word that suddenly felt hollow. The house no longer felt like mine, not unless Leah returned, and she had left with finality. Maybe she'd gone to stay with her sister Bonnie, who would have handled things differently. Not that any of it changed my situation. I realized I was wallowing in self-pity. It was time to head back and sleep it off. I only paused for a quick stop in the restroom before leaving. Once home, I changed clothes and slipped the lottery tickets into my wallet. Sitting at the edge of the bed, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the scratch-off ticket. Scraping away the silver layer, 3 cows lined up, $1,000. Another cow appeared, bumping the total to $15,000. My hand shook as I revealed the final symbol, $25,000. A laugh burst out of me. "This one's for you, Leah. Now you can afford your precious fresh start." Grinning to myself, I turned the lock on the bedroom door and got ready for sleep. If Leah came back, she could take the guest room. Tonight, the winning ticket was all the company I needed. The next morning, the quiet in the house felt heavy until I remembered what I had tucked away. Wanting to keep it safe, I waited for the bank to open and secured the ticket in a safe deposit box. I placed it there along with slips of paper bearing my state lottery and Powerball numbers, careful to copy the numbers onto a scrap for my wallet. Would this sudden luck change my life overnight? Probably not, I figured. My mind shifted back to my 2 p.m. flight as I got ready for work. At noon, I stopped back home to pack and noticed Leah hadn't returned. Unease crept in, prompting me to call her sister, Bonnie. "She's here," Bonnie snapped. "Talk to her." Then Leah's voice came on. Her tone was cold. "What do you want, Oscar? It's over." I kept my voice steady. "You could have given me a heads up before disappearing," I said. "Well, I didn't," she replied flatly. "So you're really not coming back?" I asked. "When are you grabbing your stuff? Tomorrow? This weekend? Or do you plan to fight me for the house too?" She didn't miss a beat. "The mortgage is still pretty hefty. It's yours if you can handle the payments. I just need an asset list for my lawyer. I'm not sentimental about any of it. I just want out." "Fine," I sighed. "Send the papers. I'll sign them. But I think you're making a mistake. We could have worked things out." "No, Oscar," she said, firm as ever. "I don't love you anymore. I need to start over." I couldn't stop myself from asking, "Is there someone else?" "No," she answered after a pause. "But there could be, eventually. Please don't make this harder than it already is." I fought to keep my voice even. "All right, Leah. If that's what you want, I won't stand in your way. Take care." I finished packing my bag and drove to the airport, planning to stay away until Wednesday so she could come by and take what she needed. Oddly enough, I trusted she'd only take her share. Whatever love we had was gone, but some basic decency remained. That Saturday, while fixing a copier, it struck me that the state lottery numbers had been drawn the night before. During my lunch break, I checked. No winners. Maybe next week, I thought. I worked into the evening, grabbed a quick meal, and stopped for a beer before heading home. Too tired to wait up for the Powerball results, I went to bed early. Sunday came, and after another repair call, I checked the numbers at lunch. No luck again. When I finally got back on Wednesday morning, I swung by the office first, then drove home. Some things were missing. The kitchen table was gone, but the stools were still there. The house looked emptier, but not gutted. 2 envelopes were waiting on the kitchen counter, one with divorce papers, the other with a detailed inventory of what she had taken. Seeing that she had cleared out the entire master bedroom, the king-size bed, the dressers, the nightstands, even the lamps, stung more than I wanted to admit. Upstairs, the master bedroom was stripped to its skeleton. It hurt, but at least there were no surprises. In the guest room, my clothes had been neatly sorted, shirts folded in drawers, suits hung carefully in the closet. On the nightstand was a handwritten note from Leah. "Oscar, I hope this setup works for you. I moved into a small apartment and didn't want to blow money on new furniture. You might prefer a smaller bed now anyway. Honestly, I hope I meet someone who actually wants to share one, and be there. Being alone while you traveled became too much for me. I know I didn't pull my weight financially, and maybe that was unfair. But I had to save for this move. If you want to take me to court, do what you must. I stopped using our joint accounts 3 days before I left. That felt right to me. Bonnie thinks I'm wrong, but she's got Jacob and the kids. We never had that. I could tell you I still love you, but that wouldn't be true. I do still care about you, though. Leah." I wandered back downstairs to the kitchen, which was spotless. The fridge was almost empty, but gleamed from a thorough cleaning. As promised, the signed divorce papers sat on the counter with a stamped envelope ready to go. I added my signature, sealed them, and set the envelope aside. Looking out the window, I noticed the grass was getting long, weeds were creeping through the flower beds, and the sprinkler system hadn't run in days. Leah had always wanted the yard to look perfect, but in the end, the upkeep had been left to me. One afternoon, the idea crossed my mind to tear out all the flower beds and replace them with a simple stretch of grass. If I had a bigger mower, the task would have been a breeze, but that wasn't something I was tackling today. That evening, I went out for dinner, people watching quietly from my corner of the restaurant. I noticed couples, some locked in tender exchanges, others simmering with unspoken tension, and families juggling rambunctious or unusually subdued children. For a moment, I wondered what kind of parents Leah and I might have made if we'd ever taken that step. After dinner, I wandered into Martin's bar for a drink and grabbed a few lottery and scratch-off tickets while I was there. "There's no shortage of dreamers," Martin joked as he rang me up. Smirking, I replied, "Guess that keeps you in business." We settled into a couple of stools, and I filled him in about the breakup. Martin had known me since my teenage years, though he and Leah had never really warmed up to each other. "So, what's next for you?" he asked, leaning in. I shrugged. "No concrete plans. I have some house projects to finish, but honestly, selling might be smarter. The mortgage eats up too much to make much profit, though." "Maybe think about a roommate? Split the expenses," Martin suggested. I chuckled, not without a hint of bitterness. Hard to trust anybody these days. I trusted Leah and, well, look how that ended. Still, she's playing fair, not trying to bleed me dry. Martin studied me for a second. "Still got feelings for her?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, not really. It's more of a logistical headache at this point." The bar started filling up, so we wrapped our conversation. I headed home and turned in for the night. The next morning, I mowed the lawn, but left the flower beds untouched. Around the neighborhood, most people didn't seem to notice Leah's absence. A few neighbors waved or stopped to chat, but nobody mentioned her. Later that day, I swung by Martin's again and picked up another Powerball ticket. Still no jackpot winner, he said. The prize is climbing. Same numbers and a scratch off, I told him. Right there at the counter, I scratched and won $10. You're actually ahead? Martin laughed. For now, I said, grinning. But I'm keeping that between us until the divorce is official. Leah wouldn't start anything over it, but better safe than sorry. Friday and Saturday came and went without any lottery wins. Sunday evening, I cleared out the old losing tickets and bought a new batch. Dust was starting to gather around the house, the air turning stale. I wondered if I could adjust to living like this, but for now, there wasn't much choice. That night, I sorted through the fridge to make sure nothing would spoil while I was away. Around 8, Bonnie called. How's life treating you, Oscar? She asked. Hanging in there, I replied. Plenty left to do around here, but I'm managing. How's Leah? She's okay, Bonnie said. Spends a lot of time with co-workers. Likes her new apartment, though it's pricier than she expected. Heard she went on a date, not serious yet, but she's still waking up alone, which, let's be honest, was one of her bigger complaints when you two were together. She'll find someone soon enough, I said lightly. I just want her to be happy. Bonnie laughed warmly. Always the good guy, Oscar. Don't ever change. Love you too, I said with a smile. Tell Jacob I said hi. Maybe we can grab a beer soon and give the kids a hug from me. They'd love to see you, she said. You better stop by. Oh, and don't forget, bread and beer for chop suey on Thursday. Consider it done, I laughed. On Monday, I caught a flight out for a work trip. By Tuesday, someone else had claimed the state lottery jackpot, not me. The Powerball, though, had climbed to over 150 million. Not that it mattered. Martin would happily keep selling me tickets. On Thursday, I joined Bonnie's family for dinner. Leah showed up too. We made polite conversation, updating each other on life. Her kids were thrilled to see me, clinging to me until I promised to visit again soon. When I was heading out, Leah walked me to my car. How's it going for you? She asked. I know my moving out happened kind of fast. It was a surprise, yeah, I said. But I get it. If what you felt wasn't strong enough to stick around for, then leaving was the right call. I do miss you, but mostly it's the simple things, the routines, the tiny moments. Those can be replaced eventually. Happiness is a moving target. I'm just waiting to see what's next. She smiled softly. Thanks, Oscar. I worried I hurt you more than I meant to. Thought about reaching out more often. No need, I told her. I'll be all right. I'm glad, she said. Talking like this makes it easier for both of us, I think. I kissed her cheek, got into my car, and drove off without looking back. Later that night, back at Martin's, I picked up another handful of lottery tickets, then geared up for another weekend of lawn work. The following morning, Martin gave me a call. Hey, Oscar, you mentioned you needed some extra help around the house? I found someone. She can start tomorrow night if you're interested. I'm managing fine, Martin, I said, brushing off his offer with a shrug. But I'll think about it. She's just had a string of rough breaks, Martin pressed. Her husband died in the war, she's got 2 kids, and she's getting kicked out of her place next week. She could really use a break. How old is she? I asked, despite wanting to stay uninvolved. 25, he answered. She used to be full of energy, but life's knocked her around. Her husband was killed overseas, and her parents aren't in a position to help. She just needs a little kindness right now. I exhaled heavily, feeling the weight of the situation settle over me. And why is this my responsibility? Because it's a win-win, Oscar, Martin said confidently. Trust me. All right, I relented. I'll meet her. What's her name? Eden Brooks. She should be here around 6. Maybe offer to take her to dinner, he suggested. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, I muttered, already feeling the headache coming on. When I returned to my empty, silent house, I tried not to dwell on the upcoming meeting. Still, I pictured her. Maybe short, a little on the round side, probably around 5'3". The next evening, I got to Martin's bar a little early and watched the crowd shuffle in and out. No one seemed to fit the image I had in my head. Then, a tall woman, nearly matching my own 5'11" height, stepped through the door. She was slim and moved with an effortless elegance that drew my attention immediately. As she spoke to the bartender, her voice was soft and melodic. She glanced my way once or twice before our eyes met, and she gave me a brief, polite smile. "When's Martin supposed to get here?" she asked the bartender. "He mentioned he'd be introducing me to someone." "He's running a little late," the bartender replied. "Do you know who you're meeting?" "Oscar Granger," she said simply. Catching that, I stood and walked over. "Eden Brooks?" I asked. "I'm Oscar. Let's grab a booth." She nodded politely. "All right." I motioned for the bartender to bring my drink and refresh hers, then led her to a quiet corner booth. So I started. "If you know Martin, I'm sure whatever he said about me wasn't exactly accurate." She laughed, light and genuine. "He told me you were the most handsome man I'd ever meet. Said your wife left you and that you were wallowing in misery. Apparently my kids and I are supposed to rescue you from yourself." I chuckled. "Sounds about right. For the record, my wife did leave, but I'm doing fine. I'm mostly just looking for someone to help around the house. If you're looking for stability, a live-in arrangement could work, but most of the payment would be through housing and meals." "And what did Martin tell you about me?" I asked. "He said I was cute, recently single, and that you needed someone around the house," she replied with a half smile. "Also mentioned that I'm a widow with 2 kids and about to be on the streets. Maybe a bit dramatic, huh?" "A little," Eden admitted, her smile tinged with irony. "I did lose my husband, that's true. But I'm not broke. I've got some insurance money tucked away. The real issue is that our apartment building is being demolished for condos. So yeah, I need a new place. My kids are 6 and 7, good kids, smart and well-behaved. I'd love a steady roof over our heads, but it's not like I'm desperate. The city said they'll relocate us eventually." "I heard you tell the bartender you needed to head out early because of your kids," I said. "Yeah," she nodded. "I promised them McDonald's tonight. It's a treat. Usually I cook at home. I love cooking." Noticing me glance at her, she laughed lightly. "Don't mind me. I eat all the time and never seem to gain weight. Fast metabolism, I guess. Cooking's how I enjoy food without limits." "Want to hit McDonald's together?" I offered. "I haven't eaten yet, and I wouldn't mind meeting your kids." After dinner, I invited Eden and her children back to my house for a look around. She paused to admire the flowers lining the walkway, even bending down to yank out a stray weed. Inside, I explained my schedule. I travel about 3 days a week, always with some warning. Then, I gave her a quick tour of the house, pointing out the available bedrooms. "If we move in," she said thoughtfully, "I'd need a full bed and a twin in the master bedroom. I don't want my daughter sleeping with me even if we're sharing the room. Luke could have the other bedroom." She looked hesitant, and I guessed what was on her mind. "You're wondering if I'd expect something beyond just help around the house?" She nodded slightly. "I'm not looking for anything like that," I assured her. "Boundaries are important. That won't ever be an issue. If we're going to do this, we need everything clear up front," she said firmly. "Agreed," I replied. "You take care of the house, no strings attached, and I'll handle the expenses. Same setup I had before with Leah." "Got it," she said. "I'll manage the household, and you cover the basics. But I'll split the grocery bill. My kids eat a lot, and you're not always home." "Sounds fair to me," I said with a smile. She gave a mischievous grin. "So you're blowing cash and not even getting noticed?" she joked. "I'm just hoping for a little respect," I answered with a shrug. Affection wasn't exactly a highlight of my marriage anyway. With a dismissive wave, she brushed the subject aside. "Let's change the topic," she said lightly. I was already feeling a bit off balance. "No worries," I replied. "I'll give you a ride home. First, Let me check out the beds in Tessa's room, just to see if they're good enough or if we'll need to upgrade. Eden laughed as she clarified. Tessa's what Tessa likes to call herself. The nickname was almost too perfect. Her daughter had an effortless charm her mother lacked, though Eden had her own undeniable confidence that was magnetic in its own way. Later that night, around 10:30, I made my way over to the bar. "Martin, give me a scratcher," I said, grinning. "Let's see if Eden Brooks is my good luck charm tonight." He slid a ticket across to me, but I pushed it right back. "You scratch it," I said. "If it hits, I'll buy you another one." Sure enough, it turned out to be a $50 winner. Grudgingly, Martin scratched off another ticket with a mock scowl. "No luck the second time." "Oscar, you lucky bastard," Martin said with a chuckle. Then he leaned in, giving me a look. "So, is Eden working for you now?" I deflected smoothly. "Martin, you've already stirred up enough gossip about us." We traded a few stories back and forth until he pressed again. "So, did she move in or what?" "Looks like you've got someone at the bar," I said, nodding toward a customer. I gave a casual wave and slipped out, not waiting around for the lottery drawing. I skipped visiting on Saturday entirely. Sunday morning, I swung by early to grab Powerball tickets. Martin wasn't there, so he still had no clue whether Eden had moved in. Monday rolled around, and I headed out on a short trip, drove this time instead of flying, and got back home by Wednesday night. Pulling into the driveway, I spotted an older Camry parked out front. Looked like Eden was here. Inside, the warm, inviting smell of pot roast greeted me. Eden was at the stove, lifting a heavy Dutch oven carefully. "Hey," she said, flashing a smile. "Go wash up and grab a couple beers." She glanced over as I hesitated. "I called Martin to find out what you drink," she added. She handed me a Genesee Light. I took a sip. It was sweeter than I expected, but not bad at all. I noticed the table was neatly set with some floral-patterned plates I didn't recognize. "Where'd these come from?" I asked. "They were a wedding gift," she said, voice dropping a little. "Hardly got used. Now that he's gone, they don't mean much anymore. Figured it's time for a fresh start." She ran her hand along the rim of a plate thoughtfully. "From now on, these are just everyday plates," she said with a steady but emotional undertone. "They're beautiful," I said sincerely, glancing around. "And the flowers?" "Picked them out back," she said with a soft smile. "Thought they'd brighten things up." "They do," I agreed, taking in the cozy scene. "And something smells amazing. Pot roast with carrots, onions, and potatoes," she told me. "Hang on, I'll grab the kids. Don't start without us. We always say grace first." "I like that." I nodded, genuinely touched. The kids filed in, a little shy but well-mannered. It hit me as I looked around. Something had changed. "Hold on," I said, frowning playfully. "This table wasn't here a few days ago." Eden laughed. "We moved in this week," she confirmed. "Beds are all set up. Tonight's the first night." "I'm glad," I told her honestly. "I was starting to wonder when you'd make it official." As dinner was winding down, Luke spoke up. "You have a giant TV," he said, impressed. "Yeah," I smiled. "There used to be a small one in the bedroom, but my wife took it when we split up." "You were married?" Tessa asked, her eyes wide. "Tessa," Eden began, sounding a little awkward. "Maybe that's not our business." "It's okay," I said calmly. "Her name's Leah. We grew apart. It made more sense to separate. She needed me home every night, but my work didn't allow that. Maybe you'll meet her someday." "Is she pretty?" Tessa asked innocently. "She is," I admitted. "There's an album under the TV if you want to see some pictures." The kids eagerly dug into the album, flipping through photos of Leah. Tessa kept glancing between her mom and the pictures, clearly comparing them. "Who's this lady with the kids?" she asked, pointing at another photo. "That's Bonnie, my sister-in-law," I explained. "She and her family visit a lot. You'll have some new friends to play with." I added with a smile. "Bonnie's a great cook, just like your mom." Leah wasn't much into cooking. "Honestly, tonight's meal is the best I've had in a long time." After dinner, I helped Eden clear the dishes while the kids settled in front of the TV. As we worked side by side, she glanced at me. "That was really sweet, what you said," she said quietly. "Was your wife really that bad at cooking?" she asked, a hint of a tease in her voice. I laughed. "She wasn't awful," I said. "She just didn't like it, so we ate out a lot. And I meant it. This meal had been incredible." "Thanks," Eden said softly, a warm smile lighting her face. "It feels good to be good at something. I just don't ever want the kids to think there's anyone out there better or prettier than their mom." I couldn't deny that Leah had her own appeal, I admitted, but appearances aren't everything. Eden gave me a curious look. "You really mean that?" she asked. "I do," I said with a firm nod. Back in high school, I had dated a girl who didn't fit conventional beauty standards, but she had more heart and intelligence than anyone else I knew. "Well, her husband hit the jackpot, didn't he?" Eden said with a playful smile. "I'm learning all sorts of things about you." "Want to sit outside on the patio?" I suggested, steering the conversation elsewhere. Later that evening, still drained from the trip, I tried to watch a crime series but ended up dozing off before the ending. When I finally crawled into bed, I sank into the crisp, freshly laundered sheets, something I hadn't experienced in a long while. By Thursday morning, Eden, the kids, and I were downtown running errands. At the bank, I added her to my credit card account, which had an $11,000 limit. I was careful with money and always made sure to pay off the balance. The clerk told us that soon we'd both have cards bearing our own names. When we got back outside, Eden looked at me in shock. "Why would you do that?" she asked. "I thought maybe you'd put a few $100s on there. Not all this. What if something goes wrong with the house or you need to stay somewhere else when I'm not around?" I shrugged. "It's my house. Whatever happens to it, or to you and the kids, is my responsibility. That's just the way I see it." Then, softening my voice, I added, "I hope it never comes to that. Things are tight until after my next race, but at least this gives us some breathing room. Use it if you need to." "Did your ex have her name on your card too?" Eden asked. "No," I answered. "She had her own emergency card, but she rarely needed it. I always handled the finances, so it made things a lot simpler when she left." Eden didn't respond, but she gave me a small, knowing smile. Work called me in that afternoon, but I'd have Friday completely off. I was looking forward to settling in with Eden, Luke, Tessa, and myself by next week. "Tomorrow night I'd like to meet your parents," I told Eden. "Maybe the kids could stay with them for a bit. I want Martin to know this is serious." Eden nodded. "Of course. They'll want to know how you're treating their grandkids," she said teasingly. I grinned. "Then I guess I'll have to be on my best behavior." "You're already doing a great job," Eden said warmly. "Kids trust easily, and so do I. You'd have to work pretty hard to mess that up." Later, we dropped into Martin's bar. Martin greeted me with mock irritation. "Oscar, I barely see you anymore. What'll it be?" "Just a beer," I said, "and a red wine spritzer for Eden. Half wine, half ginger ale." Eden laughed. "Okay, but don't get any crazy ideas about getting me drunk." Martin raised an eyebrow at me. "Just give him time." On a whim, I bought a lottery ticket and ended up winning $5, enough to cover our drinks. Martin groaned dramatically. "You're gonna bankrupt me, buddy." After the bar, we swung by Eden's parents' house. Her mom and dad welcomed us warmly. They were both in their 50s, her father tall and lean like Eden, her mother short and curvy. I caught myself unintentionally glancing at her mother's chest, which made her laugh. "Don't worry about it. They've always gotten attention," she joked. "Not that my husband's ever complained." "Mom, seriously," Eden groaned. "I'll take your curves, but I'll pass on the back problems." Once the kids began to fade with sleepiness, we said our goodbyes and headed home. I carried Luke to bed, while Eden tucked Tessa in for the night. Later, I settled in with a country music special featuring Dolly Parton. Eden wandered into the room, caught me staring at the screen, and teased, "You're drooling. What is it with men and boobs anyway? Mine were just there to feed babies. End of story." A little while later, she came back, grinning. "Mom's already scheming to get you to marry me. She even joked that she wishes she were single." I chuckled. "What about your dad?" "He likes you," Eden said. "But don't let it get to your head. I'm still just the hired help around here." "You're a lot more than that," I told her. "You've only been here a week, and already this place feels more like home than it has in a long time. I hope that doesn't change." Eden gave me a look I couldn't quite decipher, holding back whatever thoughts were running through her mind. Was she hesitant about where things were headed, or maybe wishing for something more? I couldn't tell. The rest of the week, I made it home every evening. Eden always had dinner ready when I got in, and the kids were thrilled with the new swing set and jungle gym out back. Every evening, they pulled me outside, begging me to watch them play. The backyard was spotless, the lawn neatly trimmed, the flower beds bursting with color. "You've been busy," I said, genuinely impressed. "I've got the time," Eden said with a shrug. "Work's slow right now." "You freelance, don't you?" I asked. "That's right," she replied. "I work remotely, editing articles for a variety of magazines. The workload fluctuates, but at least I no longer have to panic about covering rent." After a few moments of quiet one day, she asked, "Are you free Friday night?" "I should be," I said. "Why?" She hesitated before revealing, "I have a dinner date scheduled. Would you mind watching the kids for me? I'll be back by 11. An unexpected wave of jealousy washed over me, but I kept my tone light. "Of course, we'll order some pizza and have a good time." "You're really okay with it?" she asked softly. "Definitely," I replied, doing my best to sound positive. That night, sleep was elusive. I blamed my irritability over breakfast on lingering stress from a challenging repair earlier. Come Friday, I arrived home earlier than usual to find Eden looking stunning, wearing a sleek black dress, her hair immaculately styled, exuding a fresh, vibrant confidence. "You look amazing," I said. She beamed. "I know. I feel like a queen. Maybe I'll make this a regular thing." Just as the pizza delivery arrived, so did her date, a sharply dressed man, at least 10 years older than Eden, pulling up in a polished Mercedes. Eden appeared slightly flustered as she introduced us. "Oscar, this is Russell Telford, my boss. He's been very encouraging, and he's asked me out a few times," she added. "Oscar Granger," I said, shaking his hand firmly. Eden quickly addressed me again. "Make sure the kids get to bed on time. I might stay out late, so don't wait up." As she stepped out, a mixture of envy and sadness took me off guard, emotions I hadn't even felt when Leah had gone on dates. I reminded myself, Eden was the housekeeper. That was it. To distract myself, I called Bonnie. "Hey," I said when she picked up. "I set up some swings in the backyard. Want to bring Spencer and Piper over to try them out?" "Not tonight," she replied. "What's going on with you?" "Nothing much," I said. "Just babysitting my housekeeper's kids. She's out on a date." Bonnie laughed. "Why aren't you the one dating your housekeeper?" "Isn't Leah seeing other people?" she teased. "No way," I said firmly. "I don't mix business with personal stuff." "But you always wanted kids," she reminded me. "These two are wonderful," I admitted. "They're polite, sweet, just really easy to be around. But I should go. It's bath time." "They stay over at your place?" Bonnie asked, surprised. "Eden shares my room with Tessa. Luke's in the spare room and I'm in the guest room," I explained. She laughed. "You're hiding something. I need to meet this woman. Let's barbecue tomorrow. We'll swing by." "Sounds great. Come around 3, I said, chuckling. Later that night, the kids and I watched Shrek before bedtime. As I leaned in to tuck Tessa in, she wrapped her arms tightly around me. "Oscar, my friend's daddy kisses her goodnight. Mommy kisses me too, but she says nobody kisses her. I think she would like it if you kissed her goodnight too. I smiled warmly. Maybe you're right, sweetheart. Sleep tight. Once the kids were down, I stayed up waiting for Eden. Midnight came and went. Finally, I gave up and went to bed. She didn't return until 1:30 a.m., and though I stayed in my room, my mind raced with thoughts. Had she gotten close with her date? Had they ended up at a motel? I knew it wasn't any of my business, but the questions wouldn't leave me alone. The next morning, I had breakfast at IHOP and headed into the office, even though it was Saturday. Around 10, I gave home a call. "Where are you?" Eden asked when she picked up. "I wanted to tell you about last night." "It was wonderful," she said brightly. "Sorry, I had some work," I said. "Want to grab lunch? My sister-in-law and her family are coming over for a barbecue tonight. I'm picking up steaks." "Don't forget some salads," Eden reminded me. "We have a few, but grab more beer and about 3 quarts of strawberries from the farmer's market. I'll make shortcake." She hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Is she as beautiful as your wife?" "Check the photo album," I suggested. "There are pictures of her with Jacob and the kids at the beach." "I've never looked past the ones of your wife," Eden admitted. When I got back home, Eden had prepared a bowl of tomato soup and a cucumber sandwich for me. "I was hoping you'd be awake when I got home," she said. The event ran late, but it was such a special night. The writers I edit for all thanked me, and I even got an award for being the most dedicated part-time editor. We had a 5-course meal, shared funny stories, and danced until midnight. I should have called, but I figured you and the kids were fine. Relief and a twinge of embarrassment washed over me. "You didn't say it was a meeting. I thought you were out with your boss," I admitted. Eden's face fell. "You really thought that? Why would you?" "I only said I had a date, nothing more," I reminded her gently. "You got all dressed up, drove off in some guy's expensive car, told me you'd be back by 11, and didn't show until well after 1:30. Next time, just give me a heads up so I'm not left worrying." Her expression softened. "I'm sorry," she said in a low voice. "I guess I was just so excited I forgot to explain," she admitted, an embarrassed smile creeping onto her face. "Were you really that worried about me?" she teased. "Of course not," I muttered, turning my gaze elsewhere, too stubborn to confess the truth. With a carefree shrug, she said, "I'm a grown woman. I know how to handle myself. Still, it's sweet knowing you care." Eager to change the subject, I began flipping through some photos of Bonnie. "She's gorgeous," I remarked, grinning, "but not nearly as stunning as you looked last night." Eden's smile widened at the compliment. "I'll get the steak soaking in marinade if you want to start up the grill," she offered, moving toward the counter. As we busied ourselves together in the kitchen, she gave me a mischievous glance. "By the way," she said lightly, "Tessa mentioned you kissed her goodnight. She thought it was adorable." I hesitated, then admitted, "I was afraid you might think I crossed a line." Eden shook her head, her tone warm and reassuring. "Not at all. Honestly, I'd have been hurt if you hadn't. She's missed having a dad around, and I can tell you really care about Luke too." She paused, her eyes twinkling with playful energy. Maybe I should thank Martin for pushing us together. Silently, I thought, why not thank me with a kiss instead? That same day, Bonnie and Eden hit it off almost instantly, and pretty soon Spencer and Piper were becoming frequent visitors too. Now and then, it would just be Eden waiting for me when I came home. Then one afternoon, while picking up groceries, I ran into Leah. We ended up chatting in the aisle for over an hour. Eventually, her voice turned more serious. "Oscar, it's been close to 3 months since I moved out, and I'm honestly happy. I've started seeing someone new, and we're thinking about living together. Is that going to be weird for you?" I shook my head. "No, not at all. My life's settled down now. Truthfully, you're probably having more excitement than I am these days," she said with a chuckle. "But I'm good." Leah laughed. "Bonnie keeps joking. You should try your luck with your housekeeper. She says Eden's crazy about you and would be a great match." I laughed it off. "Sure, whatever, Leah. I'm just glad you're happy." She smiled and added, "Oh, by the way, that raise I promised you? It kicks in next week. Plus, I got a promotion, which means I'll finally be sleeping in my own bed every night." I grinned. "A little late for me now. I've already moved on." She nodded, a soft look in her eyes. "Best thing you could do is bring that woman into your life for real. You could have everything good that we had in the beginning. Crazy it took us 6 years to figure out we weren't right together. Just make sure I get an invite to your wedding," I teased. "Only 3 more months till the divorce is final," she said. "It feels like it's dragging forever." "Take care, Oscar," she said warmly. "You were a better husband than I was a wife. Don't be a stranger." As I watched her walk away, I reflected on our 6 years together and realized, somewhat to my own surprise, that I didn't miss her at all. That Friday, I stopped by Martin's bar to pick up my usual tickets and tried my luck with a scratch-off card. For the first time in months, I didn't even win my money back. "Looks like my luck's dried up," I grumbled. Martin wandered over, laughing. "It's all downhill from here, Oscar." "How much have you made on those lately?" he asked. "At least $2,000 over the last few months, probably more. I'll count it properly when it's tax time." Martin rolled his eyes. "Idiot. I wouldn't even report it." I laughed. "Oops, you didn't hear that from me." He smirked. "Go home and tell Eden your lucky streak's over. And while you're at it, when are you finally going to sleep with her? You both need it," he said bluntly. "Might as well get on with it already." "Go to hell, Martin," I shot back. He laughed. "Funny," Leah said. "Pretty much the same thing to me today." "Bring Eden around here more often," he added. "It's fun watching you squirm when we gang up on you." When I got back home, I caught a conversation between Eden and her mother in the living room. The kids were spending the night with their grandparents. "Mom, Oscar's the best thing that's happened to me," Eden was saying. "I love the kid's father, but I think I love Oscar even more." Her mother said something I couldn't catch, and Eden laughed quietly. "I can't just jump into his bed. The first time I tried, he kicked me out," she said, sounding frustrated. "I just wish I knew what was going through his head." I decided it was time to stop hesitating. I came up behind her, slid my hands beneath her arms, and caught her completely off guard. When she turned to face me, I kissed her, slow and lingering. "The kids are gone tonight," I whispered in her ear. "Got any plans?" Her eyes sparkled as she grinned and slipped out of her blouse, revealing a silky camisole. She paused, searching my face for answers. "Oscar, are you sure about this?" she asked seriously. "I can't just be a casual thing to you. I'm not asking for forever, but I need to know this means something." She threw her hands up with a smile. "Oh, what the hell? Come lie with me. We'll figure out everything else once morning comes. We didn't even make it to the stairs at first. The moment caught us up entirely. Later, we eventually stumbled into her bedroom. When I woke in her bed the next morning, an unfamiliar feeling of pure happiness settled over me, something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I wandered into the kitchen and started a pot of coffee. Not long after, Eden came in, sinking into a chair with a weary sigh. "Mind pouring me a cup too?" she asked. There was a brief silence before she spoke again, her voice carrying a note of hesitation. "Do you love me?" She seemed almost afraid that saying it aloud might shatter whatever magic had existed between us the night before. "You told me how you felt last night," she said softly. "But now it's daytime." "I meant every bit of it," I replied without hesitation. "I love you. I love the kids. I love all of us being together. None of that has changed." She gave me a warm, almost shy smile. "When do you need to go get the kids?" she asked. "In a little while," she said, exhaling, clearly frustrated. "It never feels like enough time." I reached out and laced my fingers through hers. Hey, we've got what, 50, 60 years to make up for it? I teased. She laughed and quipped, Pity we can't spend another night together tonight. Why not? I countered. Bonnie said she'd watch the kids whenever we needed. Her eyebrows lifted. Seriously? No problem at all, I assured her. Maybe now Bonnie will stop bugging me about when we were finally going to get together, I added with a chuckle. Eden laughed along, then said, Oh, and starting Monday, I'm getting a raise. That's fantastic, I said. But you know, it's already been great having you and the kids around. You've never been a burden. She shook her head lightly. Actually, things are so much better for me now than they were after Leah left. And there's more. My position's changing. From now on, I'll only have to travel for work once a month. Her whole face lit up when she said it. The kids are going to be so happy, she added. They love it when you're here every night. Honestly, I understand now why it was hard for Leah when you were away so much. The house feels so empty without you. She fell into a thoughtful silence before continuing. I think we should wait before telling the kids about us. But they'll see how happy I am. And for now, that's enough. Should I be the one to pick them up? I can go if you'd rather, I offered. She smiled and said, No, I'll do it. Besides, I want to tell Mom about last night. I raised an eyebrow at her. You sure that's a good idea? She nodded, her confidence unwavering. Absolutely. After she headed out, I poured myself another coffee and flicked on the television. A news story immediately grabbed my attention. One of the winning tickets for the $32,000 state lottery had been sold at Martin's bar. Each winner would walk away with $16,000. My heart kicked up its pace. Holy hell, I muttered. Martin knew the numbers I always played. Would he keep it to himself? I figured he probably would, at least until he and I had a chance to talk. I considered mentioning it to Eden but decided against it for now. I hadn't even told her about the $25,000 from the scratch-off win still sitting untouched in my account. I dumped the rest of the coffee down the sink, cracked open a beer instead, and by the time Eden and the kids returned, I was on my third. She gave me a look. You drinking before noon? That's not like you. What's going on? I'm just feeling good, I said. Who's hungry? How about some cheese omelets? She laughed. Sit yourself down, Oscar. You're on omelet duty. Something about that struck me as absurdly funny, and I started laughing uncontrollably. The kids stared at me like I had completely lost it. When I tried to explain, I only made it worse, tripping over my words until Eden joined in, and the house was full of laughter. The lightness lingered with us the whole day. Later that evening, I announced, I'm heading over to Martin's to grab a scratch ticket. Don't worry, no more beer. Eden smiled warmly. Have another if you want. After the night and morning we had, you've earned it. Just make sure you come home early. I might even let you hold my hand. She had no idea what I was truly celebrating. When I walked into Martin's, the place was electric. He spotted me and grinned from ear to ear. Oscar, thanks to you, my bar's on the map. This is the biggest jackpot this town's ever seen, and I sold one of the tickets. The whole bar was buzzing about it. I pulled Martin aside and asked quietly, Is it mandatory to announce who won? I'd rather wait until after New Year's to claim it, for tax reasons. Martin clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry, I get a bonus just for selling the ticket, so your secret's safe with me. But you know how people talk. Eden doesn't know, I said. Please keep it quiet. I don't want money getting between us. Martin gave me a sly grin. Oscar, you don't need a lottery win to win her over. Just keep doing what you're doing. Then he paused, his grin widening. Wait a second. You already did, didn't you? Congrats, buddy. The two of you truly made a perfect pair. I scratched off a lottery ticket and won $2. Feeling rather pleased with myself, I headed home without even a hint of beer lingering on my breath. Life quickly settled into a comfortable routine. The kids were back in school, Eden's freelance work was gaining momentum, and I was entrusted with more responsibilities at my job. Nearly every night, I made it home in time for dinner, something that seemed to make life better for all of us. When I turned 20, Leah dropped by to introduce her boyfriend, Travis Dalton. He worked in construction, not quite the future I had imagined for her, but seeing them together left no doubt that they were completely smitten. As the birthday celebration carried on, whispers started floating around that Eden and I had become more than just housemates. I had a strong suspicion that it was Eden's mother who first let that rumor loose. When Leah said her goodbyes, she paused for a moment and commented, "Your housekeeper's kids are absolutely lovely. Honestly, I would never have thought to pair you and Eden together, but you both seem genuinely happy. Is it serious?" "It is," I told her. "Since I moved back and started coming home every evening, Eden and I have grown much closer. We now understand why you chose to leave, and I'm truly happy for you and Travis." She flashed a grin and gave me a teasing elbow. "Good," she said. "That means you're officially invited to our wedding." Everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place until a work trip out of town stirred up unexpected trouble. My assistant, Valerie, striking and impossible to ignore, needed to accompany me. In the chaos of last-minute preparations, I asked her to swing by my house and grab my suitcase. That seemingly minor decision sparked Eden's jealousy, although I didn't grasp just how deeply it ran until I got back 2 days later. The moment I walked through the door, Eden's frosty demeanor and curt replies made it painfully obvious something was wrong. That night, after the kids were tucked into bed, I softly knocked on her door. "What do you want?" she asked sharply, her voice cold. "I just want you," I answered. "You're upset," I said. "I've only been away for a couple of days, but I missed you so much." "Then kiss me and go to sleep," she snapped. "I'm exhausted." "Eden," I sighed. "I love you. Please talk to me. Tell me what's wrong so I can make it right." "You honestly think I wouldn't be bothered by you spending time with a gorgeous young woman who flirts with every guy she sees?" She shot back. "Wait a second," I said, caught completely off guard. "Where is this coming from?" "She said you had adjoining rooms," Eden said, her voice sharp with hurt. I nodded. "That's true. But remember when you went out with your boss and I jumped to all the wrong conclusions? This is exactly the same situation. I get why you're hurt, but it's not what you're thinking." I reached out, gently taking her hand and leading her toward my room. I started undressing, hoping my actions would ease her mind more than any explanation could. Eden hesitated before allowing me to help her out of her clothes. "Oscar," she whispered, "don't lie to me. Please, just be honest." "I would never lie to you," I promised. "But there's something about Valerie you need to know. She has that flirty energy, but there's a reason for it." Eden frowned slightly. "What are you trying to say?" "Honestly, I should have been more worried about her meeting you than the other way around," I said, with a small, amused smile. It took a beat for the meaning to sink in. "Are you serious?" she asked, her expression shifting. "Absolutely," I said. "When Valerie and I first started working together, she confided something in me. She's actually attracted to women. She even checked if I was okay with it, and I told her that as long as we kept things professional, it didn't matter to me. To keep up appearances, she pretends to flirt with men, but that's not where her interests lie." I hesitated before adding, "I've met her girlfriend too, Samantha, who's just as stunning as Valerie. Samantha works elsewhere in the company. As far as I know, I'm the only one who knows about them. Yes, Valerie and I had adjoining rooms, but it was purely so I could get some work done after hours without being disturbed." Eden's shoulders softened, though I could still see flickers of uncertainty. "So you never worried about anything happening with you and Valerie?" she asked. "Not even a little," I said. "I trust you." "And Valerie?" "Let's just say I trust her almost completely. She'll probably joke at our wedding that you stole me from her," I said with a laugh. Eden chuckled softly. "I'm not going to let jealousy eat away at me again. The past 2 days have been unbearable. I've never felt so heartsick. I smiled and leaned in closer. Set an alarm. I intend to stay right here all night. We decided on the last Saturday of November for our wedding, a cozy ceremony at 10 in the morning held at Martin's bar. Always generous, Martin let us use his place for the reception until 4 in the afternoon. Bonnie stood beside Eden as matron of honor, with Tessa and Piper acting as her bridesmaids. Martin was my best man, with Luke and Spencer by his side. The whole event was small and intimate, but it was filled with so much love and joy. My side of the family was small, and Eden's only guests were her parents, but the atmosphere more than made up for what we lacked in numbers. Eden even invited a few colleagues from her magazine, including her boss and his wife, who found it hilarious that I had ever been jealous of him. Bonnie and Jacob arrived with their kids, their faces glowing with excitement to join in the festivities, which only strengthened the bond we shared with them. Around the same time, Leah responded to the invite, letting us know she and Travis Dalton, now officially her husband, would be attending. She signed the message as Mrs. Travis Dalton, casually revealing they had tied the knot at City Hall just 2 days earlier. So much for the elaborate ceremony she once promised to include us in. One of the most delightful surprises for Eden and me was realizing we both had a genuine love for dancing the polka. After a little practice, we discovered that dancing wasn't just fun, it was a way for us to feel even more connected. During the reception, Valerie and her girlfriend, Samantha, were having a blast at the bar, with Valerie being her usual irresistibly playful self. On my way back from the restroom, she intercepted me with that familiar mischievous twinkle in her eye. "Oscar," she teased, "come dance with me. I need your expert opinion." By the time we made it to the dance floor, the band had begun playing a waltz. A bit unsteady from drinking, Valerie leaned into me as we moved. "What's on your mind, Valerie?" I asked. Without missing a beat, she said, "Samantha wants me to come out publicly. She thinks it's time. Do you think it would ruin your wedding if I made an announcement during a toast?" "Of course not," I assured her. "Just remember, once you put it out there, there's no taking it back." She nodded firmly. "I know. Anyway, we're planning to get married in Massachusetts over New Year's, so it feels like the right moment." "In that case," I said with a smile, "grab Samantha and meet me up front." I clinked my glass to capture everyone's attention, positioning Valerie and Samantha beside me. "Everyone," I began, "I have a special piece of news. As many of you know, Valerie has long been the office heartbreaker, the one nobody could quite get over. Well, she's finally found her person, so the rest of us can stop holding out hope. I'm thrilled to announce she's engaged." Stepping aside, I added, "Valerie, why don't you introduce us to the lucky one?" The room fell silent as Valerie kissed Samantha. There was a moment's pause, followed by thunderous cheers, save for one lone voice muttering, "What a shame." Smiling, I said warmly, "Congratulations, you two. Now how about a hug?" Valerie threw her arms around me, standing on tiptoe to kiss my cheek, and Eden quickly joined in the embrace. I turned to offer Samantha my congratulations as well. Soon, a line of well-wishers had formed, filling the room with laughter and an unmistakable feeling of joy. Later that evening, after more dancing and celebration, I leaned toward Eden and said, "Let's call it a night. We've got a full 6 days of honeymoon ahead of us." Just as we were about to leave, Leah approached Eden, exchanging a heartfelt hug before turning her gaze to me. "One last dance, ex-husband?" she asked playfully. "Of course," I said, taking her hand. As we moved together on the dance floor, Leah shared, "I just want to say, I'm certain now that leaving was the right choice for both of us. You seem genuinely happy, and so am I. But to be honest, when I first met Eden, I felt sorry for you. I didn't think she was anything special. Now I see I was wrong. She's incredible. Russell even says she dances better than I ever did. And honestly, I think she's perfect for you." Thank you, Leah, I said, touched by her words. Friends? She asked, her eyes hopeful. Always, I replied without hesitation. Before stepping out into the night, I bought a scratch-off ticket at the counter and won $5, an oddly perfect ending to a wonderful evening. Life with Eden turned out to be richer and fuller than anything I had ever known before. She treated me with a kindness and tenderness I hadn't realized I was missing, and together we crafted a joyful, meaningful life. When Valerie and Samantha came back from their wedding trip, they were absolutely radiant, as newlyweds always are. Although everyone at the office missed Valerie's lively energy, they were genuinely happy for her. Even so, Valerie sometimes struggled with not being the center of attention anymore. She and Samantha often spent time with Eden, which at first made Eden a little uneasy. They're still adjusting, I reassured her. It's a huge step for them to be open about their relationship. They just need a little time and support. Everything will settle down soon. Eden nodded, seeming comforted. One evening, while we were relaxing on the couch, I decided it was time to share something I had kept hidden. I reached for Eden's hand. Eden, I began, you've been managing our finances since we got married. Based on your estimates, what would you say our net worth is? I'm thinking about adding a little more space to the house. She gave me a curious look, grabbed her accounting ledger, and pointed to a set of figures. We started the year here, she said, tapping the page. By February, we were at this point. If everything continues as planned, we should end the year here. Leaning back with a grin, I said casually, you can add $80,000 to that. She blinked in surprise. What are you talking about? Remember that unclaimed lottery ticket Martin sold? I asked with a smile. I have it. It's safely in the bank, and tomorrow we're going to cash it in. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You're serious? Why didn't you ever tell me? I wanted to keep things simple, I explained. When I won, I was still untangling my feelings for Leah and finding my footing with you. At that point, I made sure Leah didn't get the idea she had any claim to the winnings. Our divorce papers still hadn't been signed. How much did you win? She asked, her eyes widening in amazement. 80 grand a year for the next 20 years, before taxes, I answered evenly. She let out a low, impressed whistle. What are we going to do with all that? She mused aloud. Do you think it'll change who we are? Not me, I said. I'm happy with my work and the life we've built. Same here, she agreed, giving me a bright smile. Still, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't over the moon. Get ready, I warned her. Your picture's going to show up in the paper, and reporters, charities, and long-lost cousins will come knocking. She laughed at that. No wonder you kept it under wraps. That night, you were all over me when you got home. You must have been riding high. I chuckled. Maybe that had something to do with it. About a month later, the initial excitement dulled, and life eased back into its regular rhythm. Still, I kept buying scratch-off cards and Powerball tickets. Why bother? Eden teased one evening. They say lightning doesn't strike twice. If I'm going to keep playing, I might as well go all in and buy a whole pack, I said. Scratchers almost break even anyway. Plus, it feels unlucky to stop now. Life was good. Our home was cozy, and we genuinely loved where we lived. Every month, we hosted dinners for friends and family, a tradition everyone cherished. Even Leah would occasionally drop by, and things stayed friendly between us. Then one afternoon, Bonnie arrived with news. Leah and Travis were expecting a baby, but Travis had gotten injured at work and was laid up. The neighborhood quickly organized a baby shower to help them out, including scratch-off tickets among the gifts. That got my wheels turning. I remembered the 25,000 winning scratcher I had tucked away years ago, unclaimed from before I even met Eden. That night, I brought it up. Eden, I need to tell you something, I said, hesitating. It's about Leah, and some money. She leaned in, curious. Go on. The night Leah asked for a divorce, I bought a scratch-off ticket, I explained. It hit for $25,000, but I never cashed it. It's about to expire in 2 months. Eden thought it over for a beat. Do you want Leah to know it's from you? Definitely not, I said. That's why I want to hand it over to you. You'll know the right thing to do. Her eyes lit up. Go grab it and pick up 5 fresh tickets from Martin. I'll slip them all into an envelope for the shower. Leah won't suspect a thing. The baby shower went smoothly, and that night, Eden came home glowing. Leah started crying, she said. She didn't even realize at first what she was holding, but when we cashed them at Martin, it came out to $29,000. It'll carry them until Travis can work again. Nobody knows the big winner came from you. Then she smiled mischievously. I've got some news too. Hope it makes you just as happy. What is it? I asked, feeling my heart pick up. Blushing a little, she said, I took a test this morning. We're going to have a baby. Joy flooded me as I wrapped her in my arms. Later, as we were stepping out of the shower, she threw one last thing over her shoulder. Oh, and by the way, Martin said to check your Powerball ticket tonight. Jackpot's up to $500 million. Where'd you put it? As one story ends, another begins. Stay with us. There's so much more to discover. Let's get started. The smooth chill of the crystal wine glass pressed against my palm as I gazed at my wife's familiar, radiant smile across the candlelit table. 10 years of marriage hadn't faded Laura's beauty. If anything, time had only sharpened its edges and added new depth to her allure. Her dark hair cascaded over her bare shoulders, and the soft candlelight flickered across the emerald necklace I had given her that afternoon. A gift worth more than many people made in a year. Happy anniversary, darling, I said, raising my glass toward her. The champagne bubbled under the grand chandeliers of Le Bernardin, the city's crown jewel of fine dining. Laura's grin widened, yet it didn't quite reach her eyes. I knew that expression too well now, a polished facade concealing darker, unspoken emotions. To 10 unforgettable years, she replied, clinking her glass gently against mine. Unforgettable. Once, they had been. Before the secretive texts she thought I'd never see. Before the unexplained absences and the faint trace of a stranger's cologne on her clothes. Before my business partner began inventing flimsy reasons to skip our Thursday golf matches. I took a slow, deliberate sip, savoring the sharp, clean taste of the champagne. $200 a bottle, but fitting for the occasion. Tonight marked the culmination of months of silent, painstaking observation as I watched my marriage disintegrate piece by piece. I have a little surprise for you, Laura said, stealing a glance at her watch, her excitement poorly concealed. I smiled at her with practiced ease. Isn't this dinner the surprise? I asked. Oh no, Michael, she purred, her voice dripping with an artificial sweetness. There's something even better. Right then, the maitre d' approached the table, and following close behind was a tall figure I instantly recognized. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Eric Morgan, my business partner for 15 years. The man who had stood beside me as best man at my wedding. The same man who had been sleeping with my wife for the past 6 months. Sorry I'm late, Eric said lightly, sliding into the seat next to Laura without even glancing my way, instead adjusting the platinum cufflinks I'd gifted him for his 40th birthday. Traffic was a nightmare. I kept my expression composed as Laura's fingers brushed against his in a fleeting, almost imperceptible touch before retreating. Eric, I said smoothly, what an unexpected pleasure. Laura cleared her throat delicately. Michael, I asked Eric to join us tonight. It seemed appropriate. I took another slow sip of champagne, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. Of course, I replied easily. A brief, heavy silence fell over the table just as our appetizers arrived. Foie gras for Laura, escargot for me, and a towering seafood platter for Eric. He hadn't even glanced at the menu. He knew exactly what to order. just like he had known exactly what he wanted when he set his sights on Laura. "Michael," Laura began hesitantly once the waiter departed. "This isn't easy." "Then just say it," I interrupted, calmly slicing into a piece of escargot. "You know I've always preferred the direct approach." She threw a quick, nervous glance at Eric, who gave her a subtle nod. Silent reinforcement, the product of countless secret conversations leading up to this night. "I want a divorce," Laura said at last, her voice gaining a sudden steadiness. "Eric and I are in love." I laid my fork down with deliberate care, dabbed my mouth with my napkin, and looked at her, truly looked. I saw not just the woman sitting before me, but the woman I had met 12 years ago at a charity gala, the one who had laughed at my terrible jokes and challenged my views of the world, the woman who had nursed me back to health after my near-fatal car crash 5 years ago, who had once dreamed with me, planned a future with me. "I see," I said simply. Laura blinked, as if thrown off by my lack of anger, perhaps hoping for an explosion that would ease her guilt. "There's more," she said after a pause, pulling a manila envelope from her handbag. "These are the divorce papers." Eric shifted uneasily but said nothing, clearly there to play the role of silent enforcer if needed. Laura slid the envelope across the linen-draped table to me. "I'm asking for half of Thompson Enterprises." And there it was, the real reason for this carefully orchestrated public ambush. Not merely to end our marriage, but to carve away a part of the company I had built from the ground up. Brick by backbreaking brick, year after year. 18-hour days spent chasing a dream while Laura complained about my absences. The bitter irony didn't escape me. "Half?" I repeated, opening the envelope and scanning the first page. "That seems excessive for 10 years of marriage." "I stood beside you through everything," she insisted, her voice rising with feigned outrage. "I entertained your clients, hosted your parties, supported you while you worked yourself to death for that company. Sacrifices that had given her all the time she needed to welcome Eric into our home. I deserve to be compensated for what I gave to your success," she concluded. I turned the pages methodically. Everything had been carefully laid out. Asset division, custody arrangements for our 2 children, primary custody, of course, awarded to Laura, and a hefty monthly alimony. But the real prize was undeniable. A full 50% claim to Thompson Enterprises, the tech empire I had built long before Laura ever entered my life. Laura delivered the announcement with unsettling nonchalance. Eric would be stepping up as co-CEO. "We're confident this is the best direction for the company," she added smoothly. I locked eyes with Eric, and, for once, he didn't look away. "You've been unusually quiet, old friend," I said. He coughed, clearing his throat in discomfort. "This isn't personal, Michael. It's purely business." A dry, bitter chuckle threatened to escape me. "Sleeping with my wife counts as business now?" I said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Laura hurried to cut in. "Let's keep this civil, Michael. Just sign the papers, and we can all move forward." I glanced at the stack in front of me, betrayal itemized in black and white, masked as legal formality. Every lingering doubt I'd ignored over the past months stood laid bare. Those suspicious late-night meetings, the frequent business trips, the fragment of a questionable text I once glimpsed on Laura's phone. "And if I say no?" I asked, though deep down I already knew the answer. Laura's mouth tightened into a hard line. "Then we take this to court," she said icily, "and everything gets dragged into the open. The offshore accounts, the creative bookkeeping, the shady Meridian tech acquisition the FTC would be all too happy to hear about." She leaned closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. "I've kept records of everything, Michael. Every misstep. Sign now, or I'll ruin you anyway." I studied her, searching for any glimpse of the woman I once knew, but found only a cold, calculating stranger, certain she was holding the winning hand. "You've really planned this out," I said, sliding a hand into my jacket. I had a good teacher, she replied without a hint of irony. Slowly, I retrieved the Mont Blanc pen she had gifted me for our 5th anniversary. I removed the cap, feeling its familiar weight, somehow heavier now. Without haste, I began signing, my signature flowing across each marked spot. Once done, I nudged the completed paperwork back across the table. There. It's finished. For a moment, Laura's confident mask slipped, as if she'd expected a fight. She recovered quickly, tucking the signed documents neatly into her designer handbag. "Thank you for making this painless," she said briskly. "My assistant will come by to collect my things from the house tomorrow." I raised my glass one last time. "Here's to fresh starts," I said. The rest of the lunch unfolded under a heavy, suffocating silence. Each bite tasted hollow, not from heartbreak, but from the sheer strain of maintaining composure. When the check arrived, I settled it without a word. One last bill in a marriage that had already cost far more than money. As we rose to leave, Laura hesitated briefly. "I'm sorry it had to end like this, Michael," she said softly. "Are you?" I asked, my voice low. "We had good years," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Yes," I said quietly. "We did." I watched them leave together, Eric's hand resting possessively at the small of her back, a gesture that once would have destroyed me. Now it only stirred a grim, patient resolve within me, the certainty of knowing exactly how this would end. The following 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Laura moved out, taking only what she had pre-claimed. Our children, safely tucked away at their boarding school in Switzerland, were told we needed space to work through things. I kept in touch with them daily, weaving the illusion of stability. On the surface, I appeared to be a man gracefully bowing to inevitable change. I maintained my presence at the office, attended meetings, signed documents. If anyone noticed anything off, they had the good sense to stay silent. Eric, meanwhile, disappeared on an unexpected vacation, probably to avoid facing me. Laura called once, irritated that her access to certain company accounts hadn't been finalized yet. "These processes take time," I told her, my voice smooth and patient. "You know how slow legal transitions can be." She didn't push the issue. In her mind, victory was already secured. There was no need to rush. On the morning Laura was scheduled to return to Thompson Enterprises, newly minted as co-owner in her mind, I arrived early. My office, with its sweeping skyline view, remained unchanged. The glass desk gleaming, family photos arranged just so. Only the picture of Laura and me had disappeared, removed quietly after our anniversary dinner. At exactly 9 a.m., Jeffrey Winters, our chief legal counsel and one of the few people I still trusted, walked in carrying a leather portfolio. He laid out several documents on the conference table. "Everything's ready," he said. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Michael?" "Once you pull the trigger, there's no turning back." "I've never been more certain," I answered. At 10 sharp, my assistant buzzed to announce Laura's arrival. She strode in confidently, with Eric trailing behind her, visibly less composed. His gaze darted nervously around the familiar surroundings, registering the subtle shifts. "Good morning, Laura." "Eric," I said, gesturing to the seats across from me. "Please, have a seat." Laura lowered herself into the chair, radiating the smug assurance of someone convinced they had won. I placed the finalized divorce papers on the table between us. "It's official." "Congratulations," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I've asked Jeffrey to join us today to oversee the handoff." Jeffrey offered a small nod, his face giving away nothing. Sliding a folder across to Laura, Jeffrey spoke with a light tone. "Ms. Thompson, or should I say Ms. Harrington once again, there are a few more documents you'll need to review before we proceed." Laura frowned, flipping open the folder. "What is all this supposed to be?" she asked, irritation rising. "I thought everything was settled," she added, her voice sharp. "Almost," I answered. "There are still a few corporate matters that weren't finalized within the divorce agreement." As she leafed through the paperwork, I saw her confusion quickly spiral into outrage. Eric leaned over her shoulder to catch a glimpse, his face blanching as he read. "This has to be illegal," Laura finally sputtered, throwing the folder onto the table. "The company's bankrupt? And locked in a trust for the kids? What the hell, Michael?" I leaned back, crossing one leg over the other calmly. "You're seeing it exactly right. 3 weeks ago, Thompson Enterprises was moved into an irrevocable trust set up for our children. The next day, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy." Eric shot to his feet, his face burning with fury. "You can't just do this," he barked. "The divorce decree," I said, cutting him off, awarded Laura half of Thompson Enterprises as it stood at the moment the agreement was finalized. And by then, the company was nothing more than an empty, bankrupt entity. Laura's glare could have set the room ablaze. "I'll sue you," she hissed. "I'll drag you through the mud." Jeffrey cleared his throat politely. "I'd advise against that, Ms. Harrington. Please refer to page 12 of your signed settlement. It contains a clause stipulating that any unfounded legal action against Thompson Enterprises triggers a $5 million penalty, payable to Mr. Thompson." "I never agreed to that," Laura shouted, her voice cracking. "But you did," Jeffrey replied coolly, sliding out a second document, a copy of the signed decree, her signature bold on the necessary page. "It's right here." Laura snatched the paper, scanning it feverishly. "This wasn't the draft I signed off on," she protested. "No," I said calmly. "It was the version you actually signed. Did you think I'd just let your lawyer's draft slide without changes?" The dawning realization crept across her face. The documents she had so confidently brought into our meetings had been swapped. My version mimicked hers closely in appearance, but tucked inside were changes she hadn't caught, too busy celebrating her supposed victory. "You switched the documents," she breathed. "I protected myself," I corrected, "just as you tried to do." Eric collapsed back into his seat, looking shell-shocked. "And what about me? What happens to my role?" "Our arrangement?" he asked, desperate. "Your deal with Laura is irrelevant," I said, turning to face him. "You have no claim here. And as of this morning, you no longer have employment either." I pushed another sheet across the table toward him. "Consider this your official termination notice, effective immediately. Security will be by shortly to escort you out." Eric stared at the notice, stunned, speechless. "You can't fire me. I'm a partner," he blurted out. "You were a partner," I corrected smoothly. "Section 8, paragraph 3 of your contract outlines a morality clause. Sleeping with the CEO's wife is a clear violation." Laura pushed her chair back from the table, trembling with rage. "This isn't the end, Michael," she snarled. "You're free to fight," I said in a measured tone. "But before you do, it might be wise to check the last page of that packet." Laura flipped through the remaining pages and froze when she reached the end. "These are bank statements?" she asked, her voice faltering. "Correct," I said. "Your bank records. They show consistent transfers to offshore accounts over the last half year, accounts linked to competitors who benefited from insider information." I leaned forward, my voice dropping slightly. "Industrial espionage is a federal crime, Laura. It comes with serious prison time." Laura's face drained of all color. "You can't prove any of that," she whispered. "Can't I?" I asked, nodding toward the file. "The wire transfer dates align perfectly with breaches in our internal systems, and there are also emails, communications between you and Axiom Technologies, discussing proprietary information. Of course, there were no such emails, but her reaction betrayed her. She knew the truth better than anyone. "You set me up," she whispered, horrified. "No," I said softly. "You set yourself up. I just made sure you couldn't take me down with you." Eric stood shakily, regaining a shred of his composure. "We're leaving," he said stiffly. "Our attorneys will be in touch." As expected, I replied, offering a faint, dismissive smile. Jeffrey will handle any correspondence going forward. As they turned to leave, I added almost casually, "Oh, and Laura. From now on, the children would be living with me permanently. The terms of the trust demanded that any guardian be either employed or financially stable, and given her present situation, Laura no longer met the requirements." The look she shot me was pure ice, so sharp and bitter it could have frozen flames. But beneath that burning anger, I caught a flicker of something deeper. Fear. The crushing realization that the risk she had taken had ended in disastrous defeat. "Goodbye, Laura," I said, my voice weighted with finality as I closed the door behind her. Jeffrey waited until she had disappeared down the hall before speaking. "Pretty much unfolded exactly how we figured it would," he said. I gave a brief nod, feeling more drained than triumphant. "Make sure security sweeps Eric's office and resets all access codes," I instructed. "It's already been done," Jeffrey assured me with a nod. "And the kids? Have you told them yet?" I shook my head. "I'm flying to Switzerland next week. I want to tell them face to face." "They deserve that much," he said softly. He gathered his files and paused by the doorway. "Was it worth it, Michael? Everything you did?" I turned to the panoramic view of the city, thinking of the life that had nearly slipped away from me. "It was never about it being worth it," I said slowly. "It was about doing what had to be done." After Jeffrey left, I remained, alone in the fortress I had battled to preserve. It struck me then that victory could feel both complete and completely hollow. Yes, I had won, but the price was the knowledge of who among those I loved had betrayed me. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I knew by heart. "Dr. Sullivan's office," a warm voice answered. "This is Michael Thompson," I said. "I'd like to schedule a session for grief counseling." There was a pause on the other end. "I'm very sorry for your loss, Mr. Thompson. When would you like to come in?" I looked at the empty seat Laura had vacated minutes earlier. "As soon as you can fit me in," I answered. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of our chalet in Switzerland, watching Emma and James playing in the snow. My 13-year-old daughter was teaching her 10-year-old brother how to craft the perfect snowman, their laughter carrying brightly across the wintry air. The divorce had been finalized without further fireworks. Once her lawyers reviewed the evidence, Laura understood that fighting me would be a lost cause. Proof of her corporate espionage, legitimate, if not quite as ironclad as I had made it seem, had cornered her. Ultimately, she agreed to modest alimony and limited visitation rights with the children, privileges she seldom made use of. The last update I had heard placed her in a small apartment downtown, working for a competitor at a salary far below her former expectations. As for Eric, he had fled westward, his career left in shambles. Meanwhile, Thompson Enterprises, fortified by strategic bankruptcy proceedings, had come back stronger than ever. The trust protected the children's future, and I continued to lead the business I had poured my soul into. The betrayals had wounded me, but they hadn't destroyed everything. My phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Sullivan. "Remember, healing isn't linear." I smiled faintly and typed back, "One step at a time." From the snowy field, Emma waved with exuberant energy, her face flushed with joy. "Dad, come see what we made," she shouted. Sliding my phone into my pocket, I stepped outside into the dazzling icy brightness. The cold bit into my skin, yet somehow it felt cleansing, a reminder that even the fiercest winters eventually give way to spring. "I'm coming, sweetheart," I called, heading toward them, toward the only true riches I had ever known. As we put the finishing touches on their slightly lopsided snowman, a realization struck me. Laura had misunderstood something fundamental. Real success wasn't measured by executive titles or quarterly profits. It lived in fleeting, priceless moments like this. Real, enduring, unbreakable love. "What should we name him?" James asked, adjusting the snowman's crooked carrot nose. How about Phoenix? I suggested. Emma tilted her head, considering. The bird that rises after it burns? I smiled, proud of her quick understanding. Exactly, I said. Sometimes the best things are born after everything else is destroyed. She grinned wide and flung her arms around me. I love that, Dad, she said. Beyond their laughing faces, the snow-capped mountains towered against a perfect blue sky, enduring, immovable, and proud. Like those peaks, I had weathered the storm, battered, but not broken. And that, I realized, was enough. Back at the newly restored Thompson Tower, there was a new feeling in the air, one of lightness and clarity. The office looked much the same, but the heavy shadow of deceit had finally lifted. Trust, rare and precious, had returned. Jeffrey knocked lightly on my open door and walked in, tablet in hand. Quarterly reports just came in, he said. Revenue's up 17% compared to last year. I nodded, unsurprised. The Nakamura deal closed then? Signed and sealed this morning, he confirmed. They were impressed with the new security measures. He hesitated, then added, There's something else. Laura's asked for a meeting. My hand froze above the paperwork. Did she say why? I asked. Only that it's important, Jeffrey said. I leaned back in my chair, considering. The thought of turning her down was more than a little tempting. There was nothing left hanging between us, no lingering issues to discuss. The divorce had been finalized, the custody agreement signed. Even so, my relentless curiosity, my perennial weakness, drove me to agree. We scheduled it for Thursday, a neutral place, the cafe near the park. Jeffrey gave a slight nod. I'll arrange it, he said, before heading for the door. He paused briefly before leaving. Be careful, Michael. You've worked hard to rebuild your life. I'm not worried, I said, though looking back, maybe I should have been. Thursday arrived with an unseasonable warmth, a hint of spring in the middle of winter's rain. I showed up early, choosing a corner table that gave me a clear view of both the entrance and the park beyond. Some habits, it seems, never fade. Laura showed up precisely on time, looking both familiar and changed. She had slimmed down, and the expensive outfits she once wore, at my expense, had given way to simpler, humbler clothing. Still, she moved with the same self-assured elegance that had once captivated me. Michael, she said as she sat across from me. Thanks for meeting, she added. You said it was urgent, I replied, keeping my eyes steady on her. Is it about the kids? She shook her head. No, they're doing fine. I talked to Emma yesterday, I said. A brief shadow crossed her expression. She sounded happy, Laura said softly. She is, I confirmed. Both of them are thriving. They've settled in. Laura nodded, her fingers fidgeting with the corner of a paper napkin, an uncharacteristic, nervous gesture for her. It piqued my interest. I'm moving away, she finally said. I've accepted a job in Toronto, a fresh start. I nodded slowly. Congratulations. Will this affect your visits with them? I asked. That's part of what I wanted to talk about, she said. I'm not going to contest custody anymore. You were right. They belong with you. She looked directly at me, her gaze clear and unwavering. I was selfish, Michael, for a long time, toward you, toward them. I stayed silent, sensing she had more to say. Laura had never been one to self-reflect easily. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she went on. What I did, what Eric and I did, can't be forgiven. But I needed you to know. I finally understand what I threw away. Why tell me now? I asked, genuinely wanting to understand. Why does it matter? She sighed and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Maybe it doesn't, she said. But before I left, I had to say it, to admit it to you and to myself. I spent months resenting you, hating you for being smarter, for pulling ahead of me. But really, you were just trying to shield yourself from the person I'd become. I studied her carefully, half expecting some ulterior motive. Laura had always been calculating, but this time all I saw was exhaustion, and maybe, just faintly, genuine regret. "And Eric?" I asked, though I already knew most of the story. She gave a dry, mirthless laugh. "He ran off after the bankruptcy, claimed I misled him about the company's value. Loyalty was never really his thing." There was a grim satisfaction in hearing that, but I kept my face neutral. "For what it's worth," Laura added, "the stuff I leaked to Axiom wasn't even that important, just enough to seem valuable, to get their payout." "It's irrelevant now," I said, and to my own surprise, I meant it. The betrayal had been complete the moment she chose her side. The details were immaterial. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "This is for the kids," she said. "It's not a lot, but I want them to have it. My version of a trust fund." A small, wry smile tugged at her mouth. "Not exactly competing with yours, of course." I accepted the envelope and tucked it into my jacket pocket without inspecting it. "I'll make sure they get it," I said. "And this," she said, sliding a small velvet box across the table. "The emerald necklace you gave me for our anniversary. I want Emma to have it someday." I stared at the box, the memory of that night flooding back, the forced smiles, the hollow vows. "Keep it," I said. "Sell it if you need the money for your new beginning." She shook her head firmly. "I don't want anything that reminds me of the damage I caused. Please, take it." After a brief hesitation, I slipped the box into my jacket as well. "Is that everything?" I asked. She seemed to deflate a little, as if she had been hoping for a different outcome. "Yes, that's all." I stood, leaving enough money on the table to cover our untouched coffees. "Good luck in Toronto, Laura," I said. She looked up at me then, her eyes glistening with tears she hadn't yet allowed to fall. "Do you think you'll ever be able to trust someone again, after what I did?" Her words caught me unprepared, not because of what she asked, but because of the sincerity behind it. For a fleeting instant, I caught a glimpse of the woman I had once adored, the one who used to put my happiness before her own, before ambition and selfishness transformed her into a stranger. "I trust my kids," I said after a measured pause. "I trust Jeffrey, and a handful of others who never turned away. For everyone else, I simply lifted a shoulder. Time will answer that." She gave a quiet nod, accepting my words without protest. "Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye, Laura." I left the cafe and stepped into the vivid brightness of the afternoon, feeling a sensation I hadn't known in a long time. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the earliest hint of freedom from the resentment that had long held me hostage. As I walked toward my car, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Emma's school was flashing on the screen. "Mr. Thompson?" "This is Mrs. Winters from the academic committee," the voice said when I answered. "I'm pleased to tell you that Emma has been selected as a finalist in the national science competition. Her project on sustainable energy was outstanding." A broad smile spread across my face, pride quickly flooding the space Laura's betrayal had hollowed out. "That's fantastic," I said warmly. "When is the award ceremony?" "Next month, in Washington, D.C. Will you be able to attend?" "I wouldn't miss it for anything," I responded without hesitation. After hanging up, I stayed sitting in the car for a while, no longer dwelling on what I had lost, but instead thinking about what still remained. Emma's bright mind, James's tender heart, and the business that would one day be theirs, resilient, enduring, untouchable. Laura had done her best to break me, but she had failed to destroy what was most precious. Her betrayal had reshaped me, made me stronger, sharpened my instincts, but it had not defeated me. I turned the ignition and pulled away from the curb, heading toward home. Not the grand, hollow mansion that once echoed with Laura's laughter, but the bustling, lived-in apartment where my children and I had built something real and lasting. The weight of the emerald necklace in my jacket pocket reminded me of all that had been lost. Yet as I drove away from the cafe, My thoughts didn't linger on Laura or her betrayal. Instead, I pictured Emma's face lighting up as she explained her project, and James giggling as he built a lopsided snowman. Some losses, I realized, make room for better things to take root. Some endings aren't tragedies, they're invitations to a better beginning. And sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't inflicting hurt. It's thriving so completely that those who wronged you are powerless against your happiness. I chose the scenic drive home, appreciating the rare golden warmth of a winter day, already planning the trip to Washington in my mind. I could see a future unfolding before me, a future far brighter than anything I had dared hope for on that disastrous anniversary night. A future that was mine to claim, one I would shape on my own terms. Our story has come to an end. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the way I tell stories, head over to my channel and check out my other videos. May the force be with you. See you soon, my friend.